Hello, Stephen. Hello, everyone. Editio. I am with a problem with my camera. I'm trying to fix it. I need if the sound is okay, if the audio is okay, because I'm not sure I have a good audio quality. Hi, Noki. Very nice to have you guys here. Hola, Héctor. ¿Cómo estás? Buenas tardes. Hello, everyone. Patricia, hi. Nice to see you. Or not yet, right? You can hear fine, Angela. Good. That's wonderful. So let me open my camera and say hello. I am with a bad quality of camera and audio because simply I could not connect the right one. But I guess we still can do it, right? Does it work for you as it is? If you still can hear, that is going to be very nice. And I'll be very pleased to tell you some stories that I have to share with you today, but with a very important point that I want to explain to you about the information that is left in a house or in a workplace, in any place actually, where someone has dedicated a lot of time there to a specific type of activity. And I have a very interesting experience I want to share with you in regards to that. Hi, Cosmical Mind. Good evening, everyone, and good afternoon for those who are here in the same side of the world that I am in America. Wonderful. And so I guess we have quality enough to continue, right? To proceed. Yes. I will see if I can improve a little bit the lighting. Not sure it will make any difference, but the adventures of someone who is on the road and wants to be here, having a chat, meeting you guys, and contributing with some information. Let me tell you what I want to talk about today. I have had an experience in which I went for a visit to the Wilhelm Reich Museum. It's in Maine, in the United States. It was a very, very pleasant. Now the internet is breaking too, right? So I went to visit there in Maine, and it was a quite pleasant experience in different ways. I'm going to briefly share with you and tell you why I'm sharing this, because I want to discuss with you about energetic signature. In other words, signature is supposed to be unique. In our world here, someone can even falsify someone else's signature. But when we talk about energy, that cannot be falsified. It's our unique signature. And when I went to visit Wilhelm Reich Museum, there were a few things that I experienced there. I do not know if you are familiar with who he is, but he was a great scientist of our times. He passed, I think, around the 70s. I do not have in my mind now exactly the date or the year, but he lived through the period of time of the Second World War and some of the Nazi persecution in Germany, and he fled from Europe to the United States, and he left his work there. And he was at the time studying about what we call today bioenergy, subtle energy, our chakras energy. But he had an angle of studying that from the perspective of how energy or these subtle energies would affect someone's mind. So it was a time when psychoanalysis was just starting to flourish, the period of time of Freud. They were at the same years working on that. And then this guy, Wilhelm Reich, started, as many others, connecting, and I think Jung also, and even Freud, connecting some specific type of psychosis with the energy from the root chakra. And a lot of those studies were revolving around women, because at that time, I suppose, there was so much more repression. And often in women, they would find some sort of psychosis related with repressed sexual energy. I do not know to which extent that was a case more unique to women, but that's what they studied more. And there is a lot of prejudice that still, to this date, keeps haunting us, that there is some sort of more unstable aspect of energy, energetically speaking, of women. I think a lot of that may be due just to the women's period. We have so much more hormone fluctuations, and this does produce some energetic effect and some challenge, but not to that extent. But the point is, he was there studying a lot and doing research about these subtle energies and chakras energy. When he came to America, he left everything behind and he started from zero. Somehow he managed to put together a bunch of people who were also interested in the area and supported his work. So he would then just start an organization, an institution in the United States, an organization in the sense of a research and study organization. And he started observing what sort of effect subtle energy could have on our health. My internet keeps failing, right? But I guess you are still there with me. If there is any problem, Juliana, who is here with me, you please leave a message on the private chat. I'll try to keep an eye here. If something pops there, I will pay attention and make sure I read it. And I hope the internet holds enough here. Anyways, so this gentleman, when he came here to America, he started studying. I went to his lab and I wanted to make sure that I would observe the energy of the devices he had created. And I wanted to go and feel by myself, to be there in person and sense what sort of energy there was in the environment where he would do some therapies with energy on some people that they were, for example, suffering from cancer. And those people, many had excellent results. Now, what did I see? Number one, in his lab, I saw with his own handwriting some of the data that he would compile. And he was extremely meticulous, extremely, with a lot of criteria. It was not superficial, not randomly done. He would take note of every detail. And some people would come to him with serious illnesses and he would cure them. I'm going to show, I think I have it here. Let me show you some pictures of some of the devices he had created. Super simple for our technology today. Most of the things that we think of and talk about nowadays, we see that from the perspective of electronic devices. At that time, everything was quite more mechanical in a way. But if you see here, this picture that I'm going to show you, this is an image of what he would call an orgone cage or orgone box. What is orgone? Is the name that he gave to this subtle energy that we are talking about. So we could call bioenergy, biofield, vital energy, he would call it orgone. Now, this orgone, he was dedicating to try and measure it. Something that we still do nowadays. There are different research studies about that, including some that we do at the International Academy of Consciousness, especially in our campus, in our research campus in Portugal. But he was pioneering kind of that work. Have you ever heard of someone called Mesmer? And then he started a study called mesmerism, and he was kind of the father of hypnosis. And he also studied a lot about this subtle energy and how that would affect someone, what sort of connection there would be between the psyche and this sort of energy that they were studying and what could be done. Anyways, none of that was seen with very positive eyes at that time, because it was talking a lot about energy related with the root chakra, with sexual energy. And there is, conservatism, I guess the word is conservatism in English. And people would not accept that well. Wilhelm Reich was, I will dare to say, killed in prison, because he started doing some studies with a machine to try and control the weather. Controlling the weather is something so complex, because whoever controls the weather, if there is a machine to control the weather, that is a huge power, because our whole economic system is involved into it. You will see why I'm telling you this story. You need to know these details so that you see the importance of what I give you as an example to explain about energetic signature. So this guy, he started researching. So back, I hope internet is back. So he started researching many different aspects in regards to this energy, and he was extremely followed, repressed, and marginalized in a way by the governmental authorities, CIA and this sort of thing that is controlling information and what happens. And he was imprisoned with some excuse. I don't remember what was the detail why he was in prison. So, but he went to prison. They burned all of his books. And, just out of coincidence, 1 week or 3 days before he was due to leave prison, he showed up dead. So it's a heart attack. What is the situation behind all of this? When I was there in his place, seeing this story and seeing some videos about the challenges that he had and how everything ended, I felt extremely emotional, but not the type of emotion that is natural to me. I am not the type of person that I would watch a movie and then cry over the movie and the story is there. I feel like many movies, they just put the specific music track to make us cry whenever they want, to make us feel afraid whenever they plan. That's the point of the movie. And I refuse falling for that. But in that specific one, it was very emotional for me, because I could feel how much for him he was under pressure, and he went to prison with loads of debt, and his death represented in a way the end of his work, and he was starting a whole new line of study. You will see here in this image that I'm showing you one of the moments that he was in his lab. Actually, I think I saw his house, and this was not his lab. This was one of the rooms, like a living room he had in his house where he would work. And this image shows him studying or trying to measure how much orgone some substances or some living things would have. And he measured the orgone of some foods, which food would have more orgone. And let's remember, this is not talking about specific nutrients. It's talking about the subtle energy, vital energy that would be present with some specific people or in a specific object, and in this case, in a specific food. or type of food. Some of the results of his research, quite amazingly for me, would match some of my own observations. So that made me see it very seriously. But when I was in his lab, all of these different instruments that he built to measure energy and to do healing, because his idea is if we can measure energy, but especially if we can create devices that can, in a way, manipulate this subtle energy that he called orgone to apply into some people for specific purposes, in this case, healing purposes, that would be amazing. So then he started creating devices for that. I personally touched the devices. So his place was one of the nice museums where we still can get close enough to the objects to be able to sense it. And I went for research purposes there, but it was very open in a way for us to be able to get close to his work. And I would touch and I would test and I would try and work with my own energy there. I didn't sense anything special in any of the devices. For me, it was not negative, but not positive to any extreme extent. I don't see how that would heal somebody. I don't see how. But there are many reports that a simple orgone cage like this, with a person visiting and staying there for a certain period of time, certain number of days per week, it would work as a treatment. I came to the conclusion after examining all of that the key point there was his energy. Because after he passed, everything went down. He had not yet built a team professional enough, experienced enough to be able to replace him. He was the head of the whole project. So that was a pity. You will see, if you recognize this image that I am showing to you here, this image is from a video clip that, or a music video by Kate Bush. And this, I cannot recall right now the name of the song, but if you look Kate Bush and Reich and machine, weather machine, will come this. And the image that is shown here is something that there we would see pictures that it's his son, Reich's son. At the time he was 7. He would be just playing with the machine, but playing in a way like just sitting there and going around with his father through that farm place that he had, which is now the museum. Now, so I tested many different aspects of the energy. I didn't sense anything special for healing. I didn't sense anything special in terms of spirit guides or mentors, as I prefer saying, that would be present there. I sensed some non-physical presence, some spirits, almost like supporting the work. I would say, I don't want to say guarding, but in a way, maintaining the organization of the place from a non-physical point of view, in a spiritual point of view, or astral point of view, better saying. Because when I say spiritual here, I mean the spirit world, the realm there that is very close to the physical dimension. And in this case, I didn't sense any of his time, which is what I wanted, who, in terms of entities, spirits, were supporting him and working with him. And then there was a moment that I saw his bookshelves and everything, and I went to his bedroom. And in his bedroom, I was like just surprised that it was so small for American standards, and as compared to some of the different rooms there in his house. But then I thought, well, normal, because in Europe, rooms are smaller. And at that time, the beds would be smaller. And I sit on the bed and start looking at the window, like just seeing all the beautiful garden that was there outside. And just kept looking. not thinking of anything specific. And then I started feeling exactly how Reich would feel at his time. And I was not trying to, I was not expecting to. And there I was, sitting, looking far away, and I could feel the fear that he used to feel. I could feel myself as if I had possessed him in a way. And it's just a way of explaining, as if I could feel completely clear his fear and his loneliness, because he was alone in the work. His work was the most important thing to him. He dedicated his life. He would do research, investigations of his studies non-stop, almost like 24/7. Still, he was persecuted, he was not understood, he would have to be proving himself over and over. He exchanged some letters with Einstein at that time, because they lived at the same time, and he would show some of the data that he was studying, collecting. But then Einstein was and again, so he would send those letters, and Einstein would reply that there was no explanation, there should be something different there. But when he asked Einstein to write about that so that they could further the research of the subtle energy area, Einstein refused. So he was pretty much alone. At that time, at that moment, I started observing in different situations how I would experience energy and how people in general would experience energy. And here comes the point I want to bring to you, because there are three different essential components that we can sense in terms of energy in an environment. The number one, the least intense, is when we just sense some of the energy left there by previous guests or previous activities that have happened in that place. So you can think, if you moved to a house where somebody lived there before, or you just you are visiting a friend or a place, what sort of energy is there? What sort of energy people who pass there just leave behind? Because we are interacting energetically non-stop. We interact with objects, with people, and we leave some of our energies just attached to the structures around of us, structures of the physical world. The thing is, sometimes it's just some energy that is there that is important, that we see how that would interfere with our own energy, how that would potentialize our own energy. But other than that, it's just a more superficial, lighter information that we have in the energy there. But sometimes, even being lighter, there can be the presences of some entities. And you can imagine that you move on to your house, and those entities that were connected to the previous owner stays in the house. So you move in, the house is empty. There is just some of the energy of the previous owner there. So you would, with time, properly cleanse that, remove those energies. It will be only your own energy, but the energies that are there will interfere to some extent until they are completely neutralized. And some entities related with those who lived in your house before, let's stick to the example that it would be a new house that you got or a new apartment. So those who lived there before, because their energies were left there, it creates pockets. And some entities, some non-physical presence can just started holding, lingering around in the environment because of that. So you would go, for example, to a shopping mall or to a museum or to a show, music show, and you could sense something that is out of the ordinary for you. some emotion that is not yours, some pattern of thing that doesn't make sense, or you feel sick, or you feel extremely well as you never felt for no reason in that specific place. So the presence of those entities could interfere and create that. But in this case, there in the Reich Museum in Maine, what happened was a third option that is more rare, but the strongest. When I could just feel as if I were him and knew how he felt. It's more than knew, to feel and experience what he felt or how he's felt. And all of the deep impact of a whole lifetime translated in those seconds that I was sitting there and could capture the intensity of the essence of his challenge, his passions, his dreams, and what he had faced at the end. So these specific conditions, when the energies are so intense, so much for us to be able to experience so deeply one personality, it's not the overall energy of the place, one personality in one place where the energy was so cohesive, was so organized, and in an energy pocket, like in his bedroom, that was so much reserved and preserved that I could sense his whole life in an essence in that moment. So this is called energetic signature. They are all the same phenomena. We are just trying to establish here degrees of intensity. Otherwise, if we do not process the information in our mind in a way that we can organize what we perceive, we are just left with a lot of data that we cannot process. And then I ask you, those of you who are here with me, have you ever experienced something like this, that you go to an environment and you feel something that's not yours? Do you think that was just the overall energy of the place and you got the feeling? Or do you feel there were some entities present there? Or such an impact of the information related to the person who once lived there was still present? This situation we are talking about is quite common in cases when people have some relatives. Let's just pick here an example like a grandmother who passed, and now they went to live in the house that used to be the grandmother's. And people keep thinking, but is this energetically clean here? Am I going to sense my grandmother? Will I have the same depression problem that she used to have? So somebody could concern with that, not understanding how this works. So it's not so much because the grandmother was someone close to you, or if you would pick energy from someone that is not related to you at all. It's more of a matter of how much you connect to those energies and how much of those energies are there. So that's why we try to create this classification. And then I also want to ask you, in your house currently, where you live, so think of the physical place, the structure. When you are in your bedroom, for example, or taking a shower that you want to be calm and you are with yourself, are you conscious? Are you enjoying the clarity of your mind? Are you present, I mean, in the moment and positive? Or are you distracted? What sort of feelings you have? Are they yours? To what extent? So the idea here is to challenge ourselves, to notice what quality of energies around of us and how much of it could be ourselves only, and how much of what we feel, how many of our dreams or what type of dreams we frequently have that could be influenced by the energetic information in the environment, and sometimes an energy there that leaves such an information that is not ours, is from some place we went or somebody who lived there before, And that is the importance of studying this topic. Tell me your stories, and if you have any questions, if I can in any way comment something else, but that is the topic that I wanted to bring for us today, because for me that was a very, very intense experience. It was almost as if you could pick the wisdom of someone in some seconds of the essence of their lives. So it's a critical phenomenon, but let's think how many people and how many of us have already had similar things throughout our lives in different ways, not even knowing we were, in a way, getting some information or a pattern that was in the energetic field around. Very good. I have a comment here from Cosmical Mind. So sounds like he was making the machines work by sharing his energy with others, perhaps, since he truly believed they could heal. People started to believe it too. It might be. Is there a continuation? I don't think so, right, Cosmical? I don't see the continuation of the comment. And so it could be some of these energy around in some cases. Yes, I think in my opinion, with what I have sensed there, because the information that is in the internet is there for all of you. I did not want to come here and bring the information of what is available in the internet. I wanted to bring what I have experienced there and explain to you the different degrees of information that we can have in an environment, and to the different degrees that that can affect us or influence us. So that was the idea that I had here. But I think that he would have an energy type that would heal people. In a way, because of what you said, right? You would, or he would want so much to see that that worked, or if that worked. He wanted so much to find a way to heal people with some energy that, look, it's mine, it's yours, it's everywhere. Imagine if we really learned how to heal someone with energy. That would be such an amazing situation for us to experience and learn and change the world. But that is why he faced so much persecution. And to date, we could not completely study the result of what he did. I have here another comment that is, once I put a crucifix around my neck, an old one. I do not know whose crucifix it was. I found it. And immediately I started crying, and crying with sobs. Yes, so sobbing. And then when I remember that feeling had started when I wore the crucifix, I took it off my neck and the feeling passed immediately. Does it have anything to do with it? Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. In this case here, we cannot say that we could read the information that is there, but we can say it was an information clear enough, strong enough for or to affect deeply you when you put the crucifix on you. There are so many cases of situations in which people fall ill and sometimes emotionally ill because of some energy they have contact with, places they go. In this case, it was a crucifix, but in other case, it's a whole house. And there are so many situations, but people not always can explain in details the situations that happen and what we experience. So they just, dismiss it. But that is a good example of an energetic signature. Yes, in a way, perhaps. Or if I had to come to a conclusion, I would say that would be a huge impregnation of energy in the crucifix, still with some non-physical presences, like some spirits attached to the crucifix. So it was not only the information of the crucifix. I think when it gets to this point, there is necessarily some sort of entity around and attached to the object. So then it becomes very intense. There are cases in which people would fall ill, and the whole family, because of one object they brought home. But this is the impregnation of energy and entities who find a way of staying around that. Sometimes they don't even want, but I mean, it's kind of creating a hook, a connection between the object, the energy of the object, and the entities revolving around. So sometimes we pick it. So this was a crucifix, the story, but you pick just an object and you say, oh, you know, this object, it's interesting. I just touched it, but I left it there. But you got energy from it. And sometimes you get home and you can have bad thoughts, nightmares. You can have good ones too, but unfortunately it's rarer. And then it doesn't call our attention. The negative ones call our attention more. And that's why I bring the example of the negative things, because they are more common and more important for us to understand. But then you would see that one object can carry so much energy that can affect sometimes a whole house. So people say, do I have to cleanse every object of my house? No, because there is an energy that is distributed. It's a little bit everywhere, no problem. But there can be one object that is impregnated with such specific type of energy that end up evoking and connecting different entities, so that one object can create a lot of harm. Can it heal easily? No, it's easier to harm than to heal. Why is that so? Because it's easier to produce chaos, much harder to organize something. So that is why. So the idea of the crucifix, I think it was the situation, and in my opinion, certainly some extra physical or non-physical presence is there. Can I have another question there, Juliana? If you could bring to me. Thank you. Andre, how do you clean or get rid of those energies if they are affecting you badly? You have to emit energy to create a field around the field. It's not a protection, it's not a sealed field, because there is no way of sealing a place or a field when we talk about energy. It's almost as if we were talking about light. We can have a very intense light here, but if you turn on another light here, light will pass through the other light. So energy is more or less the same. When we are talking about energy, one interpenetrates the other. What we need to create is not then a shielding, but rather an intense field of energy that prevents those others coming through. So you emit energy to do that. You emit. So if I had this object, so I'll go back here to my adapter. So if I had this object that would be supercharged with bad energy, I would focus all of my energy here as if I wanted to enter in the atomic structure here. So the idea is almost that. And sometimes we go and then we see where those negative energy, if we talk about the crucifix or one, just that specific one, I'm not saying crucifixes are negative necessarily, but if we are talking about that one object that's super heavy in terms of energy, sometimes you go and you touch the root, so you start dismantling, destabilizing the energy structure, the negative one that was there. But this is, in terms of the procedure, very simple to do. You just go there and you do it. But when we come to actually doing it, it can be very complex. It's the same of you telling somebody, you know, you trained yourself to be a good communicator. So now you are going to go there to that place in a war, the middle of all of the conflict, and you are just going to negotiate. You need more than just being a good communicator. You need a number of skills in how to know how to react at the moment. Why am I explaining this? Because we may be just emitting energy to an object, and we may get a feeling of what's there. Then comes the energetic signature of the object. Then, when that feeling becomes clear, you see what I mean, Andre? And then we have to resist, keep our minds clean, know how to stabilize ourselves, how to continue focusing on the energy until we, in a way, dissociate that field of energy. Dissociate meaning dissolve that field of energy that was holding negative entities, in this case, together with that object. So that's how I wanted to make this context to explain, you see, Andre. So we see that, yes, just emit energy towards whatever is it that you want. And you imagine there is energy there around. When you emit your energy, you are going to revolve, unsettle that field that is holding a specific information and therefore holding specific type of non-physical presence entities there close by. And we go as we feel and keep going. When we start and we get to a certain point of the process, we cannot stop, because it would be the same as if you start cleansing your house and you move all the furniture, but you decide it is too much cleansing. Then you cannot stop because the furniture is all over the place. You have to put it back first. With energy, there is this kind of facet. But it's possible to learn, and what we have to do is trust ourselves. I comment so that you know what you have to look for and how you will work with this. But this is part of life. Sometimes we are sleeping, we wake up in the middle of the night feeling such a negative thing. Have you ever had that? Sometimes as if there was something suffocating us, or feeling bad inside, or we feel haunted, even like there is somebody around. What is our only option? To face it, to concentrate on it, and to work with energy to cleanse it. We may not say I'm working with energy, but we will resort to whatever we need to. Think positively, turn on the lights, pray, sing, do whatever we know how to get out of that. And when we are doing different procedures, there is always some sort of energy aspect or energetic aspect to what we are doing. But the more technical we can be, the more lucid we can be, of course, the better. That is super important, right? Very good. Andre, so your question here brought some very important angles for us. Thank you. Hi, Angela, how are you? You say, I don't know if this is on the topic. Something followed me home. I felt the energy in my home change. It felt weird. I could tell it was female and that she was not trustworthy. I had a CD of Buddhist chants and played it. Within a minute, she was gone, and I knew the moment she left because my home's energy felt back to normal. That's, I think in a way we are talking about the same thing. The difference is only that what you perceived was ephemeral, was temporary. Something followed you home, was there, and you found a way to disconnect. In a way, when we put, for example, the Buddhist chant, or if you would, as I said before, just pray or mentalize something positive, what we do is that we get out of the tune with that specific type of energy. We get out of the resonance. And then it is not possible anymore for that energy or that female presence. It could very well be, if that's how you felt, probably it was. But even if it was not exactly the image of the female spirit you saw, still it was something similar. And then that is exactly how it feels, it go away. What you would want to keep an eye on, Angela, is that there was no residue left. But if it was temporary, was weird, you sensed from the moment it followed you home, probably you managed to cleanse it completely. When it is something that is there for quite some time, it's there for a while, it already affected our own subconscious mind, or it already produced thoughts on ourselves that we normally would not, ideas that we would normally not think of. When this is the case, then it is much more complex and harder for us to be able to cleanse it. Just because it stayed longer, it already contaminated us more. But what you are telling me here, and the way I read it, I think you are on the spot. All of this makes sense in the way you describe it. It's interesting. Wonderful. Estudio Loba, in your course, do we learn to consciously leave our energy signature at home to make it more protected from external energy? Yes, Estudio Loba. In a way, that's what we do, because if we are talking about the information that we leave in the energy around of us and how that will affect us, what I teach in the course that I am going to launch soon, and you are probably talking about that, so it's coming in 3 weeks or so, but you will be informed of it. What happens is that we started creating this energy in our environment that we consciously put some specific type of information there. And therefore, this information will work almost as a filter. Some energies may get closer, some not. Therefore, we will be less vulnerable to intrusive energies that are not related with us, that they just contaminate and have nothing to do with us. So that is one important aspect there. I see here Cosmical Mind asking me about Carlos Castañeda's book. Yes, I know some of his work and how he experienced some of the non-physical. He had some astral projections and he worked with some different types of phenomena, altered state of consciousness, but they are different phenomena that we experience. I found it very interesting, and there is loads we learn now with a different degree of information, and knowledge is supposed to grow, right? We cannot say that now we know as much as we knew 30 years ago, 60 years ago, 100 years ago. We have to progress in our knowledge, especially in the area of the spiritual knowledge, subtle energy knowledge. I find it so difficult to progress, harder than quantum mechanics. And how can it be? We are talking about spiritual experiences since we were in the caves as cavemen. But it comes and goes, but we do not manage to produce trustworthy progress in the area of the spiritual study. So it is amazing. And I find it wonderful that we can do it. So I love the texts of Castañeda. I like it very much, and some of the ideas he brings. Yes. Something else, Juliana, for us here before I finalize it. I have an in-person session in a while, so I have to leave in like a few minutes. But I am so grateful to those of you who are here with me. I don't see any other comment, so I assume we covered everything. Is that right, Juliana? I will thank you all for being here with me. I'm sorry for the bad internet connection. Audio is not good today. My camera is not working, so I am here with the laptop camera. But still we could talk and could bring some interesting angles for us to think of. I will be soon with you with some research about all of these topics. I want to bring you some data, specific data, so that you see some connections of our own energy with all of this and what we have to do. But I promise it will be soon. Thank you. Those of you who are just joining now, if you take a look and play the video from the beginning, there will be some interesting ideas there for you to follow and be with us. I'm going to leave you a big hug, and I'll see you soon. Thank you, Angela, for being in person here with me. It was lovely to have you guys present. Thank you so much to all of you who took the time to be here live. It makes a big difference. Big hug to all of you guys. Bye. Ciao, ciao. Ciao. Life is a gift. Nice to know you are there too. Bye-bye. Goodbye. Huh? See you soon. Goodbye.